Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. I'm not much. For those of you who don't know me, I used to make friendship bracelet YouTube tutorials and videos before, and I really wanted to revamp my channel, but that never happened. And then eventually I took a really big gap in between, but I'm back now with another knotting video. So this was a pattern I got inspired by like a month and a half ago, and I decided what better way to have a YouTube comeback than knotting an entire Pac-Man pattern. So this Pac-Man pattern is on braceletbook.com. I will link it down in the description below. It's pattern number 136050 by ASMF. And you should check this person's other patterns as well. They have some really amazing patterns. So for this pattern, I started off using a wooden dowel. With larger alpha patterns, I prefer using a dowel rather than, beginning it by knotting it into some shape, like probably the loop shape. I just thought it was a big pattern, and I like big patterns on a dowel so that I could use it as a wall hanging as well. This pattern is 83 strings across and has 104 rows going down. Since I am tying mine on a dowel, I had to fold the strings in half, so I'm always gonna end up with even numbers, which is why there was one extra thread that I had to keep aside, because this is an uneven amount of strings. And this is just a string, a string with a ropey texture that I use to just, tie as the wall hanging part. I ended my pattern with just a few tassels. I used all of the colors that I used throughout the pattern. I thought it would be a nice touch. Now, these are all the colors I used for my pattern. I'm someone who uses actually different type of thread throughout a pattern depending on if I can find a color for it or not. And I had to use different types of threads for this pattern because I didn't have a specific color for that particular brand. Like, for example, you will see I use butterfly cotton, pearl cotton, and I use this brand called Red Heart. These are the ones that are available locally for us, and there's this one shop I go to which has all the different types of colors, but of course not every brand will have the type of color that I want. I might find it in another brand, but I can usually measure the thickness, and I try to keep the thickness as consistent as possible for each thread that I use, which is also very important because if you use different brands and different textures throughout your pattern, it might, get uneven. But for me, I think I have a pretty good measurement of, how much thickness to use. Like, for example, if I'm using pearl cotton thread, I usually double them up. I double them up like this, and then I use it throughout the pattern. If I'm using a much thinner brand like this, I think this is a Turkish brand, I'm not sure. I think so. I don't know if you guys can see. I think it's a Turkish one, but this one is a very stretchy and a thin thread, crochet thread, and I'm really not a fan of this, which is why I use this as my base string. But yeah, if you're using a different texture or a different brand, just make sure that you match the thickness with the rest of the threads you're using across the pattern. So for this one, I would probably double or even triple it up because it's just really flimsy and it's very thin. So for my base strings, this is what I used for my base strings because I'm really not a fan of this color for some reason, and I usually use strings that I'm not really a fan of as my base strings because I really don't care about the base strings because you're anyways weaving across the base strings, so the base strings will not be seen anyways. But I really don't care because the wall hanging is for me anyways, so I'm not too particular about that, and I don't want to waste a good thread that I could use for another pattern, which is why I use colors or strings that I don't like. Sometimes I even use scrap strings if they're long enough. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and I really told myself that I wasn't going to give up on this pattern, and that no matter what, dealing with life and everything in the way, I just wanted to finish this, and I'm so happy that I pulled through. So yeah, I'm happy to knot this entire thing for you guys. So please join me as we knot, have some conversations, chill, and just have fun.
Okay, guys, so I have finally reached the end of the white part that has the Pac-Man logo. And this took me quite some time because I kept taking breaks in between and I have work and life in the way. So, yeah, as frustrating as it was, at the same time, I really have been enjoying making this pattern because it's been pretty challenging. A lot of color switches in between, and plus we're having color switches at the edges too. I did not retain a border. I usually do that with alpha patterns, but this time, already considering that there were so many strings, I just decided to go with the pattern as is. So we're having color switches at the edges, and I'm really not a fan of it because I prefer my edges to be straight, but I think I did a pretty decent job so far. Yeah, pretty decent. So we're gonna move on to the one with the maze and the one that has the Pac-Man ghosts in it. So I am truly motivated to finish this alpha pattern. So yeah, let's go. So excited. I am on the last row of the pattern, but just to secure everything, I'm going to do 2 more rows. This is supposed to be the last row as per the pattern, but I'm going to do 1 more forward knots just to secure everything. So just finally recording the final moments of this bracelet. 2 more knots, and it's a much awaited moment. And since I've been using straight edge method, for your last row you're just going to do a complete backward knot just to secure the entire pattern, and we are done. And then what I like to do is at the edge I like to take a ruler and just you know, just make sure the knots are all tight and straight. So I just, you know, do this. It's because there are a lot of threads in between. It will cause a lot of tension, but for the most part I think I did a good job on this. And yeah, it's been a very hectic one, but I'm glad that I finished. So now we're gonna jump to the part of, like, you know, removing the tape. I don't need this tape anymore that's securing my pattern. So let me just remove all this. So removing the tape is one process, but I did that before, so I just have this one tape and probably a few from the background because I had introduced additional strings. And then I'm just gonna remove all the tape so that I can, you know, finally clean up the back part of this pattern. Oh, this is all kinds of wrong. So I just wanted to film this part in case any of you were wondering how to finish alpha patterns from the back. Now the thing with alpha patterns is they're always going to be messy because, you know, we're weaving the string back and forth with pulling strings. We're switching colors, so this is something that you really can't escape from. But this is what I do once I finish an alpha pattern, and I think everybody has their own method. Some of us, I know some people just snip those strings off and leave it as is. But for me, I think just for my sanity, I tend to really work on the back part just so that I know that, you know, even as time passes, the knots don't come undone. So the first thing people, you know, some people would do is just snip off, make it really short. What I like to do personally is I leave the strings long. I secure them with a knot just so that I know it will not come undone on the other side. So here with a knot, you can do a double knot for security. Like that. And then you can leave it at the knot. I just prefer using glue. That's just a bit of glue. Then we close that up. And I like to use a pin to dab in the glue over there. And then you can do this once it's dry. I'm just gonna do it now. And so I'm gonna do this throughout this. I'm just gonna clean the back side so that it looks all nice and pretty. Okay guys, so I finally cleaned up the behind part of the alpha pattern a bit. I definitely have some more work to do. I just wanted to you know, get started with the hanging part of the wall hanging. So definitely there's more to clear up. I'm gonna super glue this and flatten all of it out, but from the front I think it looks pretty decent so far. So now for the hanging part, I have this this thread that looks kind of like a rope. You know, it has this very ropey texture. So what I usually do is I just measure how much I want the wall, the hanging part to be, and then I leave about couple, maybe like an inch or so over here, and then I'm just going to cut it off. I don't want it too long, so probably this should be fine somewhere like something like this. I think this should be enough. And then I just cut it, and then what I do is basically you're just going to tie a knot. Just flip this over so that there's many ways of tying it. I'm not too particular about how the rope goes onto the dowel, so I just do a simple knot and then I super glue that later on. So I tie a knot like this, and then I will cut off the excess as well, and then we're going to also do the same thing over here. So let's tie the second knot here, and then I'll just do that, and then I just tie that one there, and then I cut off the excess. I will fix those later on. So, and there we have our wall hanging.
And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed knotting this with me. It was a very lengthy yet very rewarding experience, and I truly enjoyed making this pattern. If any of you guys attempt at making this, I would love to see pictures of the same. So definitely I'm trying to get back to YouTube one step at a time. So if there's any you know, patterns or friendship bracelet tutorials that you guys would like to see, do let me know. I'd love to do that for you. If you guys enjoy more not with me videos, I could do that as well, depending on if I choose a project and I try to work on it. But yeah, I'm trying to get back to it, so hopefully we'll just enjoy many more knotting sessions together. So yeah, see you guys until the next one. Bye.